Ladies and gentlemen, friends and family. Hopefully you're watching. Hopefully more ladies than gentlemen, no offense. Today we're going to be demonstrating you a little bit of one of Champagne's classics. You can find it in most everywhere in America, even in Middle America, which is very secluded from Champagne and getting some of those better champagnes. Champagne Bollinger. Bollinger. Jacques Bollinger was the original financier back in 1829, and his family ended up owning the house outright, so they got the name. And it was Jacques Bollinger, so I assure you it's not pronounced Bollinger, even though in America that's probably what you're going to hear. Or if you're going to hear it in England, it'll be Bollinger, Bollinger, but it is Bollinger in France. 1829, like I said, in Ailly, France, spelled with A and a Y. That's one of the Grand Cru villages right here in the Grand Valley, bordering on the Montagne, the Grand Mountain, Montagne de Reims, the Grand Valley. I is right in the center here. This is the whole Champagne, 319 villages. In Ailly, or I, if you're an American like me, Ailly is how it's pronounced, is right in the middle. And it's one of 14 Grand Cru villages, so it has the most premium and prestigious grapes. So Champagne Bollinger, it's a very, very good place to be from. Ailly, France, Ailly Champagne. Let's get into it. All right, opening the champagne. Try to keep it along that perforated line. If you're taking your Certified Sommelier test, like I've had the pleasure of doing, they want you to cut with a wine key over the top of that. We're not going to do it today for our little video. We'll just tear it, pull it off, throw it. I mean, that's how we're going to do it. Huh? We're not at a restaurant. We're at home, or my champagne lair, however I'd like to call it. Okay, one thing you do have to do when you open this champagne is at all times keep your thumb over the cage. You're going to remove the cork and cage together. So as soon as you start loosening this cage, you've got to hold down on this because you don't know what the pressure situation is, how hot or cold the champagne is. If it's warmer, it will have more atmospheres of pressure in the bottle and it could blow. So you want to keep your thumb on that, point it away from anybody. Kind of hold the top firm, cage and cork and everything, thumb still over the top, and then you start turning the bottle towards yourself. You should start to feel the cork loosen. I'm already starting to feel it, and then you just go real slow, and then listen. Nice and slow. And that's all you should really hear when you open a bottle of champagne. Oh, I can already smell the roasty toastiness of it. All right, let's give this a try. Champagne Bollinger. I believe it's a waste of bubbles to not stick your face right in there. When you pour the champagne right away, the bubbles are a little larger at first, so I think it's a waste to not get your nose in there. You need these bubbles to blow up in your face to really capture what was going on in Ailly, France at the time of making this champagne. And I'm not going to spend all this money on this champagne and not find out what they were doing in Ailly, France back when they were making this champagne. So get your face in there. Thing I do like about Bollinger champagnes is, other than like some of the other household names like Moet or Veuve, Bollinger actually does some of their fermentation in oak barrel, which gives it an extra level of depth, basically. So you'll have notes of spice, possibly some vanilla in there, some toffee. You won't get those notes in Veuve or Moet because they're all stainless steel champagnes, unless you get one of their vintage champagnes, which is a lot more money and probably does have oak. Roasty toasty. I smell nuts. I smell, of course, the usual suspects, apple and pear. I can tell by the color of this champagne, it's pretty rich. That's a pretty deep color for a champagne. So I'm guessing that this is a majority Pinot Noir. Smelling this, you know it's mostly Pinot Noir. It has, I'm getting some red fruits, some berries, some cherry. That's not indicative typically of a Chardonnay driven champagne. That's going to be more light and crispy, more citrus driven. I'm getting some red berry fruit, which is telling me that this is Pinot Noir. So there are 3 main grapes in Champagne, although 7 are allowed to be planted and grown and used in these wines. The 3 main ones are Pinot Noir, which this is a majority Pinot Noir, this Bollinger Champagne, Chardonnay, and Pinot Meunier. The other 4 are Arbonne, Pinot Gris, Pinot Blanc, and Petit Meslier. So those are the heirloom varieties, and only 1% of all the Champagne grapes grown are those other 4 varieties. So most of the time you're getting those, the 3. It has like almost like a honeyed pineapple thing going on. Toasty, brioche, I'm getting the toastiness. The thing that makes Champagne so amazing is the time that it spends in the cellar on the lees, which are basically dead yeast cells, and that's how you get the second fermentation to happen in the bottle and for this wine to have bubbles in it. You trap dead yeast cells in here, you put them in there, and minimum Champagne lees aging is 15 months, although this Bollinger does over double that. It's over 3 years of lees aging, so you really get like a doughy pie crust bread type thing with this Champagne, and most Champagnes. That's kind of one of the things with it, is that toastiness and briocheness. And this one is screaming through the glass that it has had some lees aging, which is fantastic. That means they spent time on it, and you can't replicate time. It's just time. So set your clocks back. It's got, I almost taste like a raisined cherry. It's almost like, if imagine like a golden raisin, if you could see like a golden cherry, that's what it like looks like that, and that's actually what it tastes like as well. It's delicious. It has a really nice finish. I'm still tasting it. Usually over 4 or 5 seconds, if you're still tasting the notes that are positive notes from the wine, it's a long finish. That's our W set lingo there. So if you have if you sip the wine, swallow, and then count 1, 2, 3. Still got some apple. 4. Still tasting pears. I'm still getting some of that spice from the oak. This is a long finish on this Champagne. And the fact that it's only about $10 more than a bottle of Veuve, this is going to be my daily drinker. Cheers! So this Champagne started IEAY in Champagne, France. It's one of 14 Grand Cru villages. IE, like I said, right in the middle of the Grand Valley here, on top of the Côte de Blancs, where they mostly do Chardonnay. And then the Montagne de Reims, they specialize in Pinot Noir. And then the valley itself, along the river, they specialize in the Meunier out there because it adheres to that climate better. It's a little bit moisture along the river, and Meunier does better against mold and mildew. It's a little more resistant against those, so it actually grows really well along the river there. So that's why you have 3 different grapes coming together. This wine does have all 3 grapes in it. There is a percentage of Petit Meunier, there is a percentage of Chardonnay, but it is Pinot Noir driven. And I actually like to call Bollinger the Krug Jr. Of course, we all aspire to be this grand, amazing bottle of champagne that Krug Champagne is, and I look forward to tasting that on here with you all as well. I think last year's Krug Champagne had 195 different wines that were blended together to make that one bottle of wine, which is just unbelievable. I'd call Bollinger like a little bit of a Krug Jr. I know they use at least 50% of this wine is from previous years' wines that they hold. And I know that Bollinger holds these wines in magnums, which is basically a double bottle. It's a 1.5 liter. They hold those wines back in magnums to allow a little bit of oxidation, which is pretty neat. So you're getting more and more complexity with these reserve wines that they're putting into this non-vintage brut. So it's about half this year's grapes and half years from before being blended in. So there's quite a few different wines being blended together to make this bottle of wine, which kind of it gives it more of a mouthfeel and more of a depth like a Krug rather than a Moet or a Veuve. Those are more simple champagnes. Both delicious in their own right, but it doesn't have as much depth and complexity as this Bollinger. Bollinger. Joey Champagne out. Thanks for subscribing. My YouTube channel, Joey Champagne Official. I'm going to review this champagne right now. We're going to try it one more time. I'm going to give you the official review. Get your nose in on those bubbles. You're wasting your money if you don't get your nose right in there. I want you to almost need to wipe your nose off after smelling this because of the bubbles have blown right up into your nostrils, okay? I need you to feel this as you smell it. That's how enticing this champagne smells. Very floral, very fruity. I'm getting the spice notes from the oak. Very, very complex for a under $100 bottle of champagne, which this is. I told you about the finish. It's got a long finish. What makes a bad wine bad to me is how soon you can tell there's alcohol in it. With this champagne, I'm getting so much complexity in the start that I can't even really tell that it's booze for a few moments after I drink it. And that tells to me that it's a good quality bottle of wine. If you get a bottle of like Yellowtail from 7-Eleven or something else from the grocery store, and it tastes like booze and fruit right away, you can tell it's probably less than $20 for that bottle. And granted, this is not less than $20. This is definitely, if you get a good deal on the Bollinger, you're paying $60 plus tax for it, and I would consider that a great deal. My friends at Woodland Hills Wine Company sell it for that price all the time. So if you subscribe to this channel, you should go to Woodland Hills Wine Company, which I'll drop a link down below. And you can go right over to the wine store and pick that up, and they ship most everywhere in the country. So make sure you subscribe. Bollinger Champagne, I'm gonna give this, for under $100, it gives me quite a bit. It's giving me quite a bit of depth. It's giving me a great nose. It's giving me a really good finish. I'm gonna give this a 7.8. That's a good score for a bottle that's a house champagne. We're gonna go into some other champagnes that you may not have heard of, that are not quote-unquote your typical house champagnes. Those are more grower-producer champagnes, where a grower will grow his own grapes and make his own champagnes with those grapes. Now, Bollinger does own their own grapes. They own quite a few. I think they own over 160 hectares, and that's quite a few grapes, but they also do buy other grapes as well. So that being said, this is a big house champagne. They produce over 1 million bottles a year, and they need plenty of grapes to make that many bottles. So we'll get into some of those récoltant manipulants, which are grower producers, and they make a lot less champagne, and they only use their own grapes. They don't buy other people's grapes. So two pretty different styles of champagne, although they're both champagne and they're both grown in the same spots, potentially right next door or in the same vineyard. But until next time, thanks for tuning into my channel, Joey Champagne. Having another glass of champagne on my house. Cheers.